What determines humanity? Humans have a voice and are able to speak our thoughts and feelings. We have the ability to love and care about others over ourselves. This is what makes us human and not animals.
I don't believe that you can stop being human, but you can definitely stop behaving as a human would. Once you are so desperate for something in life, like survival, you will do anything to get it. Would you do your best in trying to survive in something like Eli did, or would you give up?
In the beginning of chapter 2, one of the guards say, "There are 80 of you in this cart. If anyone disappears, all 80 will be shot, like dogs." This is a prime example of inhumanity taking over the guard himself. No one with actual feelings would have the heart to shoot so many people for no reason. Another very inhumane moment was in chapter 3, page 26. Ailey's father asked a gypsy, "Excuse me, can you tell me where the lavatories are?" The gypsy looked at his father as if to be disgusted that he thought he could ask him a question. He hit him so hard that he fell to the floor. Ailey goes on to saying, "I did not move. What had just happened to me? My father has been struck, and I didn't even blink an eyelid." This was the start of his personality changing. This was the start of the inhumanity taking over. Is it possible to stop being human? And if so, what determines this humanity? When does it start or stop? What is the essential factor in being human? It is not physically possible to stop being human, though it is possible to stop behaving as a human would. This behavior stops when you are trapped in a life that you can no longer control, and your purpose is one thing and one thing only: to survive. Being human is to have feelings and love other people before yourself. We as humans serve a purpose so much further than to just survive. The Holocaust is a prime example of people's lives being taken away from them. Ailey will never be the same person. No one would, after being treated as an animal. Hello, Eliza. How are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Today, my colleague and I will be asking you a few questions.
So when they gathered you up and took you away from your home, were you actually hopeful? Could you rationalize some outcome here other than death?
We actually didn't think of death at all. It happened March 1944.
Interesting.
We had non-Jewish friends who wanted us to come stay with them, but we didn't know. We thought the war would end soon.
When they tattooed a number on your arm, was that the single most dehumanizing moment, or is it just one in a list of many dehumanizing moments?
Oh, that didn't mean a thing, but the first dehumanizing moment was the day we arrived.
You and your father were separated. As they broke the men and women apart from your mother and sister, you would never see your younger sister or your mother again. They were perished.
As long as my father was alive, I was alive. When he died, I was no longer alive. It wasn't life, it was something else. I existed, but I didn't live. And even when we were together, we had certain code. We didn't talk about my mother, my sister. We didn't talk, we were afraid.
Towards the end of night, you described your father's death, and the last night he was calling you out for water, but at the same time a guard was beating him, and your best judgment was that you couldn't help him. You were helpless. You didn't respond. And then you write, "There were no prayers at his grave. No candles were lit to his memory. His last word was my name," a summons to which I did not respond. You couldn't possibly feel guilt about that if you were being hard on yourself.
I do feel guilt. I know that logically I shouldn't, but I do feel guilty because we were terribly close. But at the same time, the instinct prevented me from being killed. If I had moved, I would have been killed. Beaten up to death, I was weak as he was. And who would have known that he would die that night? And we didn't know, but I do feel guilty.
Did you assume, as you and your father tried as best you could to survive, that your mother and your sister were dead?
Oh, we knew, but we didn't talk about it. I knew and he knew.
Apart from all the physical horror, the murders, the torture, the hunger, the separation from loved ones, and then the ultimate loss of loved ones, is there any way to describe what it does to you psychologically to see people that you admire and respect rendered impotent and stripped of their identity? To see that all your mother could do for your little 7-year-old sister was to stroke her hair. That was all, in the circumstance, she could muster to protect her child.
This is a wound that will never be healed, but my father was helpless to protect me. That moment was probably, for me, the hardest of the entire period.
I have one more question for you today. What was the happiest moment of your life?
The birth of my son.
Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Elizer.
We really appreciate you sharing your story.
You're welcome.
Oh, we're actually starting?
No. Ready? Apart from thee. Blah, 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 blah.
There's a. I do feel guilt.
Towards the end of night, you describe your father's death. And the
Go. Apart from all the physical horror,
But I do feel guilty because we were terrible.
So we don't need